call the meeting to order. Stand and say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Motion to approve the agenda as presented with one addition, paragraph G, executive session for personnel. Marty, I think, was on that, and then a second on Aaron. All in favor say, well, you gotta do them one at a time. Then we'll fix yours. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Larry.
I would request that Jay with design arc, that we not address that until we do arc ink and our demolition wing issue and the new board is seated.
Okay, so you want to have a motion to remove paragraph J
Yes.
from action items? Okay, we have a motion from Larry to remove J from action item 6. Do I have a second? To have a discussion? Okay. All in favor of aye to have a discussion as to removing that action item?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign?
Aye.
Okay, so I got one. Marty, you want to vote? Well, you got it.
Seems like we have two different things going on here. Larry wants to remove it completely and Aaron wants to have a conversation.
Yeah,
I'd say
that's what I
I'd say that
And in my opinion, that's a negotiation issue.
What did you say?
Negotiation, it's a contract negotiation.
I guess you could look at it that way. I'm just saying, we've got other issues I'd like to address. The seating of a new board, I don't like the saddle or something that they haven't gone into.
This is an action item to accept or not accept, correct?
this is an action item. I believe there is, and if you just give me 1 second to pull up. Within our packet, there is a proposal from, I gotta make sure I say it correct, Design Arc. Got a lot of pages in our packet here today, folks.
It's the one that was decided February 25th, the one that we acted on.
Yeah. So it is a request for an $8,000 fee. That would be what we would be discussing here tonight. Phase 1, $8,000 fee.
Plus to be determined fees.
If after but that's a phase 2, if there was a bond referendum. If there is no bond referendum, there is no phase 2. So we're not passing, there's nothing tonight being discussed as to a bond referendum. It would only be as to phase 1.
Well, to do a bond, we should know what to pass.
That's what phase 1 gets us, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That information.
Well, here's what we're gonna do. First of all, I got a motion, and I've got a second to put into discussion. And we're discussing it, so let's just be honest. Let's just beat around the bush. We've got a discussion as to whether or not we want to go through that or not. Right now, the issue tonight, Design Arc on action item J, does have a proposal for us for an initial upfront refinement of design and detailed budgetary cost estimating of lump sum amount of $8,000. So that is what we would be considering. Now, I would also say that just because we motion to discuss it when we get to paragraph J, if it doesn't pass 3-2, or 4-1, or 5-0, then it doesn't pass. So I think it's whether it's, right now the question would be whether it's tabled, and then your question is whether we converse about it. So the question is, if we want to converse about it, I think we should keep it as an action item. If we want to table it and take it completely off the agenda, that would be Larry's motion right now. Is that a fair statement, Larry?
I suppose it's a fair statement.
Okay.
So we can go to Jay, discuss it, and then
Yeah, absolutely. So Larry just wants to remove it completely from the agenda, correct?
More or less give it to the new board, and at some point, the board should sit down with the committee and discuss, and administration, and staff. That hasn't been done, that I'm aware of, with any input.
Well, let's do this. First of all, do I have a second to table?
Karen,
Well, is that a second to table or is that a second to discuss? Because I think there is a difference between those two. I think if we're going to discuss, then it would be more appropriate down in the action items to discuss.
I'd like to discuss.
Then I think the question is today, right now, do we want to table and just not even discuss it? Your motion is to table. Aaron, you want to discuss it? Joel?
Yes, discuss.
Discuss? Okay, so we got, and I'll vote to discuss, so we got 4-1. We'll leave it on as a motion to be made at that time. Whether we even get the motion to discuss at that time, it's still a motion. If I get all of my rules of procedure correct. Okay, conflicts disclosure. None other than our standard. Public communications. Before we get started tonight, I'm going to take 5 seconds just because I'm helping out veterans organizations. Just for everybody to know, on Bearcat TV and the Reporter and Farmer has been really good to us in helping us get the word out. This year, Memorial Day services will be in the Webster High School gym. They will not be at the Armory. So if you could please let people know, we really do appreciate that on behalf of the veterans organizations. I get it, it's not a veterans meeting, but oh well, I'm the president of the school board and I'm a veteran and that's just tough crap. So we're gonna get that piece of information out on public portion here. Other public communications.
I've got some. I can take a few minutes here, Tom. I just wanted to address some questions from Dax Jorgensen. He had a lot of really good questions on Facebook. And rather than getting into the Facebook social media thing, I asked Dax if he could come to the meeting tonight, and he did, and thank you for that.
Appreciate you letting me know.
I asked Tom if I could use up a little bit of Dax's public communications time as well as mine, and I'd like to just go through his list of questions and just try to get the facts out in the community of why we are where we are with the wrestling. And so, if it's all right with you, can I just kind of start going through? I've printed off the post. I haven't written any notes because I kind of know this from the back of my head. And the other thing I wanted to do is do it in front of the whole board, so that you guys all have input. So it's not just me or it's not just Tom talking to the people in the community. It's everybody in here has an opportunity to answer some of these questions. So with that, I'll just get started here. Dax post reads, okay, I've thought of this over for quite a while now. I've decided to make a few observations. Number one, it goes without saying I am a wrestling supporter. I understand the push for an addition to the Armory to create a multi-sport complex. I've been to wrestling tournaments where there are only 2 mats going, and we wrestle from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. That makes for a long day. I'm sure the same is true with basketball and volleyball tournaments. More space equates to getting done quicker. What I don't understand is the push to tear down the wrestling room without having a viable plan in place for the wrestlers to have wrestling practice, to have a wrestling practice room. So I'm going to stop there on that first question, and once again the question is, I don't understand the push to tear down the wrestling room without having a viable plan in place for the wrestlers to practice. The answer to that question is, we do have a plan. It's the elementary gym. That is, from the board's perspective, that's adequate amount of space. I know it's not what everybody wants to hear, but we do have to have a plan. And that's been, we've come up with that a couple of years ago. Since then, there have been other venues in the community that have been vetted, and there's a group out there actively trying to figure this out. But to answer that specific question, we do have a plan, and have had a plan the entire time, the elementary gym. Next paragraph, I've heard numbers ranging from $9 million to $18 million to build new facilities. There is an active work group here. A few of the members are here, Bo and Kate. I saw a few others walk in the room here.
Spencer's back.
Oh, can't see you back there, Spencer. these guys they're doing the heavy lifting right now. They're trying to figure out what would make the most sense for the Webster area school district. I don't know that those numbers are accurate or that they're not. You know, it's just, at this point, they're still on I believe, still on a fact-finding mission. And just stop me if there's anything here that you want to talk about, you know.
No,
So that's what we're here for. I want to have good, open communication. Next paragraph, I've heard people say a bond or an opt-out will never pass. We have recently had a school board election, and I heard more than a few people say, vote for this person because he supports or doesn't support this or that. You know, that's all hearsay. It's no secret that this wing has been on our agenda. It's been on our agenda since 2019, and we've spent countless hours on trying to figure out what to do down there. So the new board members that are coming on are well aware of the facts that we're, you know, the issues that we're facing here. So I think that kind of answers that one. Next paragraph, at the center of everything seems to be the wrestling program. There's ideas. They could build bathroom facilities in the baseball building to the south. Another idea I heard was using a building on Main Street. I've also heard send them to Roslyn or Bristol. Once again, those are things that I've heard in the community. There's things that this group, and the wrestling group, and others have been out exploring, trying to find what they seem to think is a better fit than what our plan is, the elementary gym. That's never changed.
Okay. Can I chime in?
Absolutely.
You know, the one thing you said in there, that the center is the wrestling. Actually, on that, I would disagree. The center of this whole entire project since day one is the career and technical education. It's the ag shop, the woodworking shop, the old George Stewart Industrial Arts room, and the home ec. In 2019, I mean, everybody needs to remember, we brought in competing engineering firms to do an analysis of that wing and to specifically give us their recommendations. And Larry, what's the name of the firm that recommended? Because I always forget their name. ISG. Larry remembers it every time, I forget. But ISG, well, I should remember. I can't. ISG specifically came in and did an extremely thorough evaluation of that wing. And we specifically asked the question, should we invest, I don't remember if the number was 2 million or what? 3.2. 3.2, thank you, Larry. 3.2 million into that wing. And it's...
That was to fix the boiler.
And
the associated pipe.
Yeah, our checklist.
Yep.
And if they would have said yes, they probably would have received the contract and been our architect and our engineering firm for that. And they sat there we weren't in this room at that time, I can't remember what classroom we were in. But, thank you, Larry, we were in the science room, and they said, no, we do not recommend investing $3.2 million. It would be a bad investment for your district. The engineers sat there and said, do not do it. And that was in 2019, and that's how we ended up with ARC Inc., who also made the same recommendation, but then they made the recommendation for the CTE wing that we currently have. So the wrestling room, yes, is part of that wing. But number one focus is we educate 530 students that are currently enrolled plus or minus in the Webster area school district. You only get that one shot at a free education, and really that CTE wing has been what has driven the train to get us here. Now, wrestling is the remaining issue in that wing, but that was really what started this ball rolling, was because of the issues we had with we talked about it with the old egg shop. Bring a piece of egg equipment that's used in commercial egg business today into the old egg shop, and maybe we're getting a Bobcat. You most certainly weren't getting any type of heavy equipment that is being used, let alone our welding program or the shop that we have in there now. And that's the number one goal. So, I apologize.
No, but that's perfect preamble into the next question. My question is this: why don't we fix the wrestling room we have and move on to the additions to the armory on a manageable timeline? And to that point, and I'm just going to read the next one because it goes right into it too. I've also heard the reasons our insurance won't cover the building anymore. I've heard that it was the biggest driving force for the demolition of the wrestling room. So I'm kind of bunching those together, but Tom did a nice job of explaining what started, one of the pieces that started this whole thing was the boiler. And to replace the boiler, we had to replace the pipe, and Larry, the number was 3.2? That sounds correct. We had to make a decision at that point in time, is it worth investing $3.2 million just to fix up the heating system, and still have the old wing, the old wrestling room, and all of the other problems that we knew were there. So that was the first step. The only note I wrote down here, actually, I went back, Bo, and looked at some of our text messages, and Bo and I started texting about this on March 18th, 2019. That's when this whole issue came up, and so one of the reasons why I wanted you guys to come here is I, for one, am a huge wrestling fan, supporter. We want to get everything we can for you folks, as well as the rest of the building, but we've been talking about this for 6 years.
I'd like to say I am a wrestling fan.
Absolutely, everybody in here is, absolutely. But we've been
When I went to school.
wrestling with these decisions for 6 years now. Anything else to add on that? And so, getting back to the insurance, we got our first non-renewal letter 2 years ago. I believe it was 2 years ago. For 1 year? Okay. And, we worked really hard, and I'd like to thank Mr. Keller that watches Bearcat TV that came up with the temporary heating solution that we were able to put down there to get us by for 1 more year. The truth of the matter is, the insurance company wised up to what we were doing, kicking the can. We were just trying to keep holding on, keep fixing all these little punch lists. I mean, Dr. Black and Lori and everybody, the janitors were working diligently on taking care of every little thing we could do to try and stay there as long as we could. They just finally said enough is enough.
And we have to remember, it's not just a room, it's a building. And everything that we're sitting in here today is still connected to the 1950s wing, the 1970s elementary school, the 1990s middle school, the 2000 high school, the 2010 CTE wing, and even down in the basement where the old boiler room is, I think the 1880s original foundation, 1890s. I mean, so that's one of the issues that we have when we'll be talking about with ARC Inc. We can't separate just one room off. It is the building. And so once the insurance company says, unless you take care of this, the whole building's at risk, we just can't risk it. It's the entire facility. I wish it was just as easy as one room, but it's not.
Yeah, I didn't know exactly how much it was, as far as like, if it was just a gymnasium part, or if it's where the roof is leaking, or what. I mean, I've heard different things and stuff. I mean, there's water that comes up, I guess, in the floor, water stuff,
The ground.
the groundwater and stuff. I mean, I understand that too, it's, well, hey, we've got groundwater.
Yeah.
I understand groundwater.
And it's just the position that we've been put in. They will not insure the building if we keep that money. Period. They've made that clear to us. And we can't, and there's the other thing, just again, right now, there's only one insurance company we can get insurance through.
We've done a lot of this ourselves. We kicked the can down the road.
We did.
In 19, when we were going to do something, we had a master plan. We had one with wrestling room, we had one with auxiliary gym, that type thing, and all of it tied to removing that back at that time. So at some point, there was the wrestling court, whatever was using that facility, was going to have to move. Regardless what happens moving forward, somebody's going to have to move. There's no way around that. But once we address that and it's gone, and you have 25,000 square feet out there that's a parking lot, you may have different thoughts on what you want to do. That's kind of what I'm hoping you guys look at.
And to Larry's point, this has not been taken lightly, this decision, because he's right. At some point, that's got to go. How do we move people around? I mean, that's been, we've debated that.
Well, we've caved into the public by keeping it there. And now,
I can't argue that.
now unfortunately, there's no way out. It's gotta go. far as, why are we demoing?
All right, anything else?
Yeah, no, I got a few more things. I mean, Jack wrote a really good set of questions here, and I want to get through them all. You did a fantastic job. You should be a writer.
No.
Amanda.
You see what I,
Okay, moving on, next paragraph. I've been in that room for many, many, many hours over the last 10 plus years while my son has wrestled. And all that time, they have battled water, mold, smells, etc. It's no secret that this is not a new building. I'll keep going here a little bit. Also in the last 10 years, I don't recall much being done to fix any of the problems to mitigate the arising issues. This year, they shut off the water to the bathrooms and shut off the heat. They did put in a heater like you would see in a big garage over the stage to keep the place warm. To that point, agreed, there's a lot of issues down there, and we were dealing with those issues. I first got on the board in 2015, I believe, and we dealt with those issues in that building just like any other issue in the building. But once we got to this 2019-2020 timeframe, we knew we have a problem. So now the board has to start deciding where to, how to use taxpayer funds,
for the long term.
yeah, what's the best plan for the district in the long run?
Yeah.
I do not believe that the building was ever willfully neglected. It just, we had to make different decisions in the last 5 years than we did in the previous 5 years that I've been around. Yes, we did shut off the water last year because we had to remove the boiler. So there was no heat in that area. But one of the ways that we were able to continue to have practice down there last year was because we were able to buy that temporary heater. And heat just that wrestling room, which you know more about that than I do. But I just really want to make the point there that the board made a decision at that time to spend that $10,000 or whatever it was, $8,000 or $10,000 to buy one more year. And to Larry's point, we kind of caved. Moving on here, the idea of building a new facility to house everything is a wonderful idea, massively expensive, but a good idea for a long-term plan. What I do not consider to be a good idea is to tear down the existing structure before there is a plan in place to cover everyone's needs. Am I wrong? Respectfully, Dax, I think you are wrong.
Yeah.
I believe that we have a plan.
I have no issue with that.
Yeah.
I remember practicing in that room in 1985. The locker room smells the same then as it does now. There's always been that issue of water, moisture and stuff down there. It's a basement basically, and I didn't know that you guys have gone in that far. I've learned more in the last 10 minutes than I have asking questions and hearing things secondhand, and I'm just glad that the information has come, like this, I'm glad, I appreciate you guys answering my questions 100%, because I do understand a lot more now.
Yeah.
And to me, it never seemed like a bad, that bad of a room and stuff, but I take your guys' word on it. If it is that bad and structurally, I guess, junk, then it does gotta go and be replaced, so.
Yeah.
The easy button, Dax, would be, let it be. That's the easy button. And unfortunately, we're getting to the point in time where the easy button, like I said, it just doesn't work. We've hit the easy button for years and decades. That boiler, there was talk about whether it was put in the 1930s or 1950s. When you would look down that boiler, you would hear Dan Nash talk about how he would have to put his hands together like this, and I don't know how he was ever able to slide into that boiler and then have somebody hold his feet to pull him out in case hot water burst on him. That was the type of people we had working at the Webster School District to keep that place going. We've been very blessed and lucky over all these years that we got as much use out of it as we did. And yes, that boiler issue has been pushed off. That West Wing issue got pushed off. The easy button would be punt everything to 2028, but eventually somebody's gonna have to make a decision. And unfortunately, I think it's coming down with this next few months.
And that's kind of the last question here is, so why not invest the money into fixing what we already have in order to prolong the demolition? thereby alleviating the problem of what to do with the rest of us. And respectfully, Dax, that's what we've been doing, and it isn't getting any better. You know, it's just construction costs keep rising,
Everything goes up.
everything's going up, and it's just, we're at a non-renewal point, it's just, we can't kick that can anymore. We just, like Larry said, we've caved to the public for too long, and, you know, had we made this decision in 2019, we'd be in somewhere new, if we have 3-4 years used by now, you know, but
No,
it is what it is.
exactly.
And then you just made a few other really nice points here, and you know, thanks for letting me just take a few minutes here. Do you have any other
And I
questions?
appreciate this. I mean, I've talked to other people, and nobody's had this much information. I've learned more here, like I said, in the last 10 minutes than I have in the last 2 years about stuff. That's, you know, people just hear hearsay. That's kind of what they hear, and that's what a lot of stuff goes by, and it's inaccurate, and it's not fair to you guys either, as far as the information that's getting put out there.
Right, sitting up here is, you know, our word doesn't always get out. You know, we're lucky that Amanda writes good articles, and we got Bearcat TV, but people have to take the time to read it or listen to it. Or else, respectfully again, the Facebook thing takes off, and that's why I didn't want to
Absolutely.
respond.
And that's why.
Because all of a sudden, there's 100 comments, and people are not focusing on the facts.
Yeah, and that's why I asked, I mean, I was extremely careful with my choice of words. I mean, I did not want to
Great.
piss anybody off, I did not want to upset anybody or offend anybody.
No.
That's not my, I had questions, and I've heard these questions from other people.
Yep.
That's why I literally took 2 months of time to think about what I was gonna write, and I put that down, so.
Sure.
Like I said, I do appreciate all of you guys' work on this, I really do. And I appreciate your time tonight telling me this and putting this out there, you know, so
You bet.
hopefully that puts some of the rumors to rest. So,
And there's gonna still be more questions. There will be always. There'll be questions after this month, there'll be questions next month. And the biggest
and
thing.
more rumors.
Yep. And that's right. And the best thing we can just tell people is to go back and, you know, look at the record, you know, read the paper. You know, Bearcat TV, I'm glad that we've had our meetings broadcast, you know, for the last, how many years? You know, I mean, there's years of archived stuff. If you want to go back and find out what did Larry Jareva or Tom Santa say 6 years ago, it's on the internet, it's out there. And we have to, it's out there. I mean, you can find it. And I think that the groups that are out there looking into this shouldn't be afraid to ask the questions. It's a hard question, it's a tough one for them. And I think we can do good things.
And just my final comment is, there's this group called the CATS Group, and they're represented here tonight. They've got a really good, diverse group of people that they're trying to figure out what does the community need or want, or, you know, trying to do some of the logistical things. And I would just ask for people to step up and help. You know, the wrestling community is very well represented within that organization, so is basketball, so is volleyball. They've got a really good group put together, and I would just suggest, you know, help them get to wherever they want to go. Other than that, I'm good.
No,
You have any
I
questions?
appreciate your time, I really do.
Good.
All of you guys, I really do. So,
Thanks, Dax.
but,
Thank you.
thank you guys.
All right, anything else for public comment? Okay,
Yeah. Is this
I'll tell you, what we're gonna do is, I think you are gonna be Jay. So since we talked about that now, and since I think you guys, realistically, I will give you guys time to speak at that point in time, just like we did last meeting, or 2 meetings ago, or 3 meetings ago, when the kindergarten moms came in, and the first grade moms. We'll open it back up to public comments when we get to that section. Okay? Anything else, public communications? Okay, motion to approve the minutes. Do I have to do separate motions or just one minute? Separate.
Oh, no, all the minutes can be in one.
Okay, motion to approve the minutes of our last 2 meetings, right?
So,
Thank you, Joel. Second? Thank you, Marty. Discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to approve the financial statements as presented in your packet. Thank you, Aaron. Second?
second.
Thank you, Larry. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to approve the claims as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Joel. Second, Marty. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to approve the negotiated agreement with the staff and the Webster Area School District. Thank you, Marty. Second. Thank you, Aaron. Discussion?
Are all positions filled?
Yes.
Good.
Be better.
Unless you want a third.
Okay. Any other comments? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
And then I'm an aye. So it's 4-1. Vote on the South Dakota High School Activities Association. Are these separate motions?
We voted nay on the,
South Dakota High School Activities Association, do I have to do individual, or can I do one as recommended by the athletic director?
Yes, you want to.
All right, motion to vote on the South Dakota High School Activities Association ballots in accordance with the recommendations of our athletic director. Thank you, Aaron. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Larry. Discussion? Just so you know, there's a lot of, we're voting on numerous provisions here with the South Dakota High School Activities Association. Just so the public's aware, it's from board members, again, pulling it up.
it has a lot, there's 3 amendments that have to do with enrollment.
Yep.
I did read through them, and I read through the rationale, and it seems to me that it has a lot to do with neighboring school districts. But I didn't dig real deep into it. Our athletic director is recommending we accept them.
Yes. And there's pretty much, it's both basically the members of who's going to be on the South Dakota High School Activities Association. All right, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to accept the resignation of Devin Peterson, junior high football coach. Thank you, Aaron. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Joel. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to approve open enrollment number 25-13. Thank you, Joel. Second, Marty. Discussion?
This is just one of our students moving out.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to approve the policy revision,
Criminal background check policy.
yeah, criminal background, GCDB is what it's called, the policy, but it's our criminal background audit. Thanks, Aaron. Second, Larry. Tough issue here we got. All in discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to approve the 2025-2026 contracts.
So moved.
Thank you. Larry, second? Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to declare surplus property at little to no value, fax equipment and miscellaneous items from the old wing. Thank you, Larry. Second. Thank you, excuse me. Thank you, Marty. Second, Larry. I apologize. Discussion.
I have started to gather a list of items down there, and Lori and I were also up at the storage areas. Items that exist. really isn't anything that I know of that's of any value if I determine that it is. We have some things that we can possibly donate, possibly sell to other schools. For instance, the platforms, risers that we used to have in the band room, they were removed during COVID. So we had them in there for about 15 years. And even our previous music teachers did not want them back in once COVID was gone. We were able to use them. So they've been in storage. I believe there's possibly another school that can use them. It's going to be a matter of where, how far away are they, what will they give, what are they going to give. So things like that. I don't know what street value something like that has. So I really haven't come across anything that I just think is fantastic in value. I would invite you folks as a board, if you wanted to just peruse through the three main areas, the fax classroom, the fax kitchen, the old wood drafting shop, the wood shop. If there's something in there you think that could be of value to look at. I do have some folks that have contacted me with some interest of things that they know were here when they went to school here 30 years ago and things like that. But I don't know, Lori and I walked around some this morning, and we have a lot of stuff that's probably going to get repurposed, and hopefully not too much that comes into the rest of this building, and some that we'll put out on the boulevard, and hopefully somebody will take, and then the rest will probably have to pay to have it disposed of. So. But again, I would invite you folks, if you walk through, I would say have at it.
Any other comments? Bring your trailer. You know, if you want George Stewart's or Charlotte Hoverstadt's classroom door, there's an opportunity for you to own that someday. Just got to talk to the right person.
Actually, those original doors are gone.
Don't say that, we'll get $20 out of it.
We remodeled them.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to approve the audit report for the Webster Area School District fiscal year '24. Thank you, Marty. Second?
Second.
Joel, discussion? It's a good audit, folks. Lori, thanks for everything you do. There's a lot of funds that get run through the Webster Area School District. Don't take for granted a clean audit. I've seen many other entities that do not have clean audits, and Lori does a great job. Jim, Mr. Case, everybody across the board. We've got a good administration, and that's a good audit to have. There's a lot of information. If you really want to dive into school funding and finances, how many pages are in that audit?
Many.
80? You can learn a lot by reading those 80 pages. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to move into executive session as to the contracts negotiations. So moved. Thank you, Joel. Second? Did somebody make it a second?
Wanted to say, we can still flip around to get these guys out, or it won't take?
It shouldn't take long. Let's just go ahead. Aaron, do you second it?
Could we just do it during the other things?
That one might be a little longer. Let's move this one here so we can get it done. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll be right back. at 6:59 PM. Do we have a motion to approve the transportation contract with Kevin Newell?
So moved.
Dave Joel, second? Second. Thank you, Marty. Discussion.
I think we've got a good contract presented here by Kevin Dunewald, Cheyenne Transportation. I would just ask, to folks out in the public, we paid for as-driven, could-be-driven miles, not as-driven, but could-be-driven miles to all of our patrons. That's just the way busing contracts work, and so if there's any patrons out in the district whose children are getting a little bit older, they're maybe driving themselves to school, if that's a conversation worth having, it is a conversation worth having, if you'd be willing to talk to us about that, about possibly having your residents taken off of the list, we can always add you back on later, but, some of these outliers out in the country cost the school district $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a year just to be on the route, even though the bus never goes there. So I would really like to get that message out there that there is potentially some savings out in the community with some of these could-be driven miles.
Marty, Aaron, you guys are on our transportation committee. Do you have any comments?
Basically, it was the main one, that one. The increase isn't, it's not any more than what, any other business, the increase is more than what he's gonna increase in salary, so.
Yeah, really, nothing is any different except for a slight increase in the cost of that. And like Joel was saying, if we can take some of those could-be-driven miles off, definitely helps us.
Well, I think the biggest thing I look at is that, busing is a significant expense for our district. After staff, it's right up there in the top 2 or 3. And so, I think Kevin's done an excellent job. We've had no issues, really, of mention since he's taken it over. I believe it's now been 10 years. I think he's a great member of the community. I think that his drivers do a phenomenal job of their number one thing, getting our kids to school and home every day safely, and getting our kids to activities and home every night safely. And sometimes those roads, I think, are a little bit tough, where I think sometimes it's a little bit late at night that they're driving, and I think they've done a fantastic job. And so if you're out there and you do have an opportunity to sit down, you wonder, am I one of those individuals that maybe I can save the district a few $1,000s, please reach out to one of us. At the same time, if you're thinking about maybe driving a bus someday, I've given Kevin the public service announcement. I think he's going to be looking for drivers. Our driving age is not necessarily getting any younger. So we're going to be looking for drivers, and that's something that is a challenge for every district. So all in favor of approving the transportation contract for 5 years with Dunewald Transportation, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Larry, do you have a CDL?
I do, I think it's gonna be good.
Larry might be your driver. All right, before we move on to action item J, we do have one alibi. We have Madison Block. She was at the junior high track meet, I think, helping out. She wanted to come down during public communications and make a presentation to us, and since she was helping out the junior high track meet, we said we could fit you in now when the track meet's over. All right, go ahead, Madison, you got the floor.
I would like to propose my gold award for Girl Scouts. My plan is to paint the emblems of all the clubs on the hallways, on the walls next to the doors, because I would like to raise a level of awareness for extracurriculars other than sports, because I think we can more awareness for them.
Okay. What do you need for us to do, Madison? Sounds like a great idea to me, sounds pretty.
Just your approval. The club is going to sponsor me with some money for the paint questions and all this president, so just need your approval.
So where at in the hall?
Like, I would do the FCCLA logo by the Baxter.
Oh, okay.
And the FFA logo by the egg room, just like wherever they're located.
Are you thinking?
Yes, me and a team of students and their parents.
Good news for you.
How many emblems?
What?
How many emblems? How many clubs?
For sure the main emblems, so like MVP Club, FFA, FCCLA, Robotics, I think the Pro Start, those,
Yeah, I do too.
I think it's a good idea. Any other questions for Madison? All in favor of approving Madison's Gold Award project? Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Good luck painting, and make sure your dad puts in his fair share of
I
work.
will.
Graffiti artists.
All right, moving on, we are at action item J. Motion to approve the design art proposal.
So moved.
Got a first by Joel, second.
Second.
Second by Marty. Discussion. All right, we kind of started this thing off, guys, already with a little bit of discussion, and I think, Bo, that's what you were here to discuss with us, correct? Is the design arc or where the CAPS group is kind of at?
Yes, yep.
So why don't we let you guys have a little bit of the floor, and then the board can have questions, and we'll go ahead and go back and forth, and there can be give and take with your...
So, I'm here with Cad's group. Do you want to talk, Spencer?
Go for it.
Oh, yeah. We have been working on coming up with a potential plan for several months now. And we've been working with Design Art as our architect. And he's been working pro bono with us on getting us drawings. And we've kind of exhausted our freebies, we feel. And that's where this contract comes up in front of you guys. He's been very diligent on getting us drawings, and we've changed things, and we've had several sets. And what I've handed out now is potentially a square footage. We like that particular footprint. It matches well with the existing armory and what we're looking for moving into the future. Because we all know that the wing's going to fall down. It's going to happen. You guys are going to vote on that, or you voted on that. It's going to happen with the mid-leg short venture. So this is going to cover, like, you know, if you add up those numbers, you're at like 34,000 some odd square feet, give or take. That's where we've had some arguments with our group as far as some of the sizes on some things, this, that, and the other. But one item that we do continuously go back on as we are discussing is we just don't want to build another high school gym. So we don't really want to shoot ourselves in the foot and being too small right away. We're looking for a 70-year investment as far as being able to cover what we have for existing activities and such, but what potentially could also show up as activities and whatnot.
Can I just ask for some clarification, because I
Yep.
want everybody to know what he means when he says we don't want another high school gym. That gym is too small.
Yeah,
Right,
yes,
that's what
yep. Yeah, you can't pull the bleachers out all the way, because then you're onto the basketball court, right? If I'm understanding correctly? And that's where we just don't want to have that sort of issue now, where if we build another, you know, we're looking at a wrestling room, a weight room, and competition gym. And so at that case, we don't want to, I wish we would have made it a little bit bigger. Do it right the first time. It may cost some money, and unfortunately, that's a side effect that's going to happen. Construction costs are only going to go up, so we do want to get this ball rolling as much as we can, and we kind of have stalled out with where we can go with drawings, and if we don't have drawings, we can't sell this to the public. We can talk about square footage, and they're okay with that, but they want to know what some of the nuts and bolts are going to be, what's actually going to be in there. And we say, well, there's going to be a weight room, a wrestling room, and locker rooms. I was like, okay. Most people are visual, and so they need to have that print in front of them. So that's kind of where we're at today. Because if we look at, some of the statistics, I guess. You know, like in 1955, when the Armory was built, roughly, we only had 4 athletics at that point in time. We had football, boys basketball, boys track and field, and boys golf. Well, we moved forward to 2020.
We didn't even have wrestling in 1955.
No, 61.
I wouldn't have known.
Yeah. And it was just the boys' sports too. So it was just those 4 varsity sports, I should say. So like in 25 now, we've got football, volleyball, boys cross country, girls cross country, basketball, wrestling, track and field, and golf. For both boys and girls. So our number of activities has gone up exponentially. So as we are looking towards the future, are there going to be more activities? I don't know. But right now, we're looking for making sure that we have enough room to even feed this many programs, because there is split practices and such. And so we just try to make it easier for everybody. So, but ultimately, like getting that's what kind of where my driving force on helping this group is for obvious reasons. So, some people might ask why we need the larger facilities like we are talking. And I know that, like, as I talk about the future, different wrestling tournaments and whatnot, we can't host them because the Armory is not big enough. Like when Dax talked about the 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., like that's every Saturday for us. And when people say, oh, well, you know, you're wrestlers, you do that all the time. We would like to get done at 6 p.m. That would be awesome.
Not to mention following it up on Sunday with another tournament.
Well, right. And then if you're junior high, then it's Monday also.
Right.
I mean, it's just, so just to have an evening would be nice. And so this gym that we're looking at would be able to have 3 mats down underneath one roof. Because I know the NEC has talked about renting a facility so they can have everything underneath one roof. I know the region tournament, the Region 4B tournaments talked about renting Aberdeen or Watertown, put everything underneath one roof. And I look at our location, and we're pretty centered in a lot of the athletics, or the athletic teams that we compete against. So I'm looking at trying to open up opportunities there. Do I think it'll have a good economic impact on our community? Sure. Anytime you can bring in some big event of some sort, people are going to buy gas, they're going to stop at your food places, and so on and so forth. So you are going to bring in a lot of people that way. So overall, I think we've got a good thing going. We're just kind of at a point where we're kind of stalling out because we want to get drawings out to the public so we can get public input on things that they might want to change. Good things, positives, and, negatives, I guess, it's kind of where we're at, I guess. Yes, no?
Yeah.
So this drawing, this is a gym, a wrestling room, a weight room, and then a new,
Yep. So,
all that is right there.
yeah, yep, locker rooms.
What seating would you have?
Well, that's some of the argument. We're looking at probably 2,000, 2,300, give or take.
You have 1,750 now.
Right. Well, 1,700, I think is what the tag says above that. Because we have high school regions next year here in Webster.
Yeah, I'm just saying, if you'd have to.
Oh, right, yeah. Seating's gonna be bigger.
Have you looked at the cost of the Armory upgrade?
As far as,
The Armory needs quite a bit of work.
yes, yep. So when we start talking numbers, we want to upgrade the boiler, put in air conditioning potentially, get rid of the ceiling tiles.
There was a number of things I.
Yeah, well, no, and we've discussed that. I know there was the main water line coming in from the east coming in, needs to be replaced. Like, we've discussed all that stuff, and we would want to put it all in
Did
underneath.
you get a
What's that?
price and cost estimate on that?
Not yet.
That's what this is for.
Right, that's where,
I've done that. When I talked with the engineers, they said you could easily do 5 to 8 million on the existing Armory
I believe that.
to upgrade that, regardless of this issue. I'm not trying to knock you
Right.
out. I would like to see a wrestling room or something. What you're looking at, you're not gonna see, if everything went fine, you're not gonna see it for 3 years or so.
Right, and that's why we need to get going on it yesterday versus tomorrow.
Well, yeah,
'Cause
I might want to address some of, the other type, but then I look at student use, it's off campus.
I don't disagree with that statement.
So the student body wouldn't be able to use it unless they're bused down there. Right now, we're one of the few schools, you can't have a general assembly here with the student body. On
High
campus.
school you can, but not,
On campus?
not K-12. Yeah, high school, fits in.
I said a general assembly, the whole school.
Well, right, I said 7-12.
You said high school.
Oh, sorry.
So I guess I'm just throwing these things out,
Right.
and another question I have is, we don't own the property down there. So you'd be building on property that the school doesn't own. So that would have to be addressed.
Did the school build the locker rooms for the,
Yes,
Yeah.
we've done that before, And when you talk master plan or anything, we've looked at master plans or whatever, and what they may encompass as far as fine arts, auxiliary, competitive gyms, whatever, all that. That's something that I don't think the board, as a group, and I know Marty and I are leaving, that's why you have a new board, it'd be nice that you work with, what some of their thoughts
Larry,
are.
I respect your opinion there, spot on. The problem is, the new board's gonna have the same questions you're asking right now. We need to work on starting.
But they'll be here.
Answers.
They'll be sitting in these seats, I won't.
And
This gives us answers.
This gives us answers. Your master plan, your long-term goals, one of the problems, have you looked at any other location?
yeah,
And-
we've talked about here,
and-
adding on, and one of the big conversations is, parking, and I've always joked that if we paved the parking lots and painted lines, you could double your parking space, but,
Yeah,
realistically speaking, I don't know,
I don't think you'd have less parking at the Armory.
count your spaces.
I'm down there every day to track meet, within 3 blocks.
But there's
you
no
can't park.
lines. And you gotta understand,
I see
you've been to
parking
Walmart
as a
in
problem.
winter,
I don't
right?
care if you're down there or here, there's gonna be a parking problem.
Right.
Go
But if you
around.
paint lines, you're gonna, like, I wish people understood this a little bit more, because I bring this up more than once. You've been to Walmart in winter, right? And they're parking, nobody can park. And so if you start putting lines in, and organizing it, I've been paying attention to the high school concert this other night,
And we're gonna
prom a couple
pay
weeks
the
ago.
parking lot.
Right, what's that?
You have to pay the parking lot to do that.
And it is paid at the Armory.
Okay. Now, have you looked at something alternative? I brought up before, like a training center, something that you could be in a year.
I brought it up,
And it wasn't a bad idea,
right, I think that we've got a lot of good ideas, but there's,
but I think when you say you want to get the ball rolling right away, this or that, and at the
right.
time.
Because if we did just a standalone wrestling facility, I don't think the school board's going, or the school can afford just
Well,
that. And
Is
so
this a
if we're gonna do a bond,
is this a standalone wrestling facility here?
no, there's everything.
I never said a training center would be standalone.
Right, but if you're only gonna, when you say a training center, are you meaning
You
just
need weight
the?
rooms, locker rooms, whatever you need, so it's something year-round
Yep,
that can be used.
That's what they're proposing here.
that's what's looking at here. The only other added that we're talking about here is competition gym. And that's because I keep hearing about needing more gym space, and when we did the math on all the extracurricular activities,
Yeah.
there's a need for another gym.
I was kind of a fan of a training center, something you could get done and get going.
And I don't disagree.
That would utilize what you could do in your event center.
Yep,
I don't want you to go too small,
right.
but if you can't get anything, I'd rather something that you're gonna use down the road or continually use.
I'm optimistic to think that a bond would potentially pass, just because there's enough young people that I've talked with that are on board with it.
That's right.
And I don't even think that's a conversation for tonight. I think we need to focus on the
No,
topic.
we've done the same thing.
I didn't, right.
We didn't do our demo, we kicked the can down the road.
And now
Well,
you
let's
want
not
to
kick
do
this
it.
can.
This is what we'd be doing again, is kicking it down the road. If nothing happens.
So let's
okay,
move forward.
Let's sit down and,
Take the next step to get answers. I mean, we're not building nothing here, we're just asking for answers.
I'd still like to finish the project we did. And we have an engineer's estimate, we met with them already for the demo.
Right,
and
right, so
everything
that's,
else. Now,
so let's not kick this can either.
we haven't done our budget yet, so I don't know. I guess I'm still, I support the wrestling, I think we should have something, but I can't support bringing in another firm when we're working with one already. So, not that we would one or the other, but that's my 2 cents, I guess, so.
So for the $8,000, that gives us the drawings and measurements of, is that what you take to a bond then? Or do you have to have more architectural work to get to the bond?
Can you go with a bond if you don't own the property?
Yes.
We'd have to have
Phase one.
You guys have a lease agreement.
a lease agreement.
But let's be clear. I want to be clear, we are not talking about a bond tonight.
But I want to know the process.
Right, the process, in order to do this, the first thing you have to do is come up with an engineer's estimate. You have to come up with the architectural design. We have to come up, I agree with you, Larry, with what does the community want? What does the public want? All of those things have to be put together. I do think that this engineer's proposal, we propose to provide services in 2 phases as follows. Phase 1, for initial upfront refinement of the design and detailed budgetary cost estimating, we propose lump sum amount of $8,000. I think that's the key phrase. Everything we're talking about is pie in the sky until you have an engineer tell us a detailed budgetary cost estimating. We can't tell if we want 10,000 square feet or 20,000 square feet or 15,000 square feet. We can't tell if we want to have a woman's locker room. Now, I mean, guys, that has a woman's locker room that actually has a door on it, a visitor's girls' locker room. There's not even a door to the commode. We can do better for the community. That's what we need to look at. All we're talking about here is $8,000, correct?
Yeah.
What about the to be determined?
That's
That's
only.
phase 2.
Right, that's.
And it
phase two.
says after the passing of the bond referendum. If there's not a passing of a bond referendum, there's nothing else on it.
So that $8,000 gets us to the bond.
They say specifically, phase 2, a proposal for full architectural and A&E engineering services will be TBD after the passing of the bond referendum in negotiations with the Webster School District. We're not committed even at that point in time. They're specifically saying, we propose this much, we say, no, we don't have to go with it.
If the new board, once they're seated, they decide, we want it on campus, they're throwing this out.
I think these guys are on the hook for an initial upfront
You're gonna
refinement.
pay it,
What?
you're gonna pay that 8,000.
Yeah, 8,000.
But this is strictly, a lot of questions, as I just asked, haven't been answered for me.
They'll never be answered until you have, I mean, that's what, it's the chicken and the egg. Yeah, we could kick this can for another 2 months, 3 months.
Well,
Eventually, we gotta have an engineer come and tell us something, don't we?
well, we've done that several times. We did a master plan.
Not at the Armory.
Yes, we did. Absolutely. We did fine arts. We did a wrestling rope on the northwest
But not at the Armory. But not, wait. Okay. Here's where I'm at, Larry. I'll just tell you, I think it's a good idea. I think it's $8,000 well invested. I don't think we're committing ourselves one way or another. There may be a bond vote, maybe there won't be. That may be. What's that?
Can't be a bond vote without this.
There can't be a bond vote, correct. that is for future boards, but I do think, let's quit kicking the can. Let's start getting some numbers. If it's gonna work, let's find out. If it's not going to work, then let's find out how we're going to make it work.
Well,
But we commit boards all the time. I mean, we just committed the next 5 years worth of transportation, involved
yeah,
transportation.
I'm just would like the new board to.
The new board knows what, I mean, we've been talking about this for 6
That's
years.
fine.
They know what's coming.
That's fine.
That's why you had a number of people.
Yeah, that's why there was 6, 8.
I saw Watertown only has 4 people running for their entire school board. 4. We got, what, 7?
Something.
You know?
So do we, I know you guys have worked with these guys.
Yep.
I mean, does the board, do you want to ask Patty to do anything, or you just go with the one? I mean, is that a bids thing, or no?
I think that's not a board question. The Cats group has reached out, they're working with this firm, they're trying to provide us with information. They put hundreds of hours of time into this thing.
So that would be an issue once, if a bond passed, then you could say, okay, we're meeting between these two, I mean, let these two do it, or you just...
I think even a better question is this, Aaron, what if they come back with something we don't like? What if the design art puts together just as a no-go? It's just not gonna work. I don't think we're foreclosing ourselves to any other architectural services in the future. I'm surprised that they're willing to do this much for $8,000.
We did get 10. For that West Bay.
Which we thought was gonna be the right answer. We were really hoping it was gonna be the right
Well,
answer.
it was a green, yeah.
Yeah, but we
Literally, we
at
haven't
least
spent trying to find out.
Jeez, I mean, this is a good job.
Yes, I agree.
I take the vote, let's move on.
Okay? One more call, if Larry?
Big one.
Well, so that's a no?
That's a no.
Okay. Aaron?
As long as we're only committing to that 8,000? Yes.
Okay. Marty? Yes. Joel?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, motion carries 4-1. Moving on. Motion to approve boiler pump relocation.
So moved.
Thank you, Joel. Second?
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. Good luck, thanks. Did somebody second? Thanks, Larry. Discussion.
Okay, sorry, I opened that last discussion. Boiler pump relocation. So we have several estimates / quotes that have come in. One of them is quite sizable, and I wasn't comfortable saying, sure, let's go for this, because is this one that Lori that's $89,000?
Yes.
And that's what.
We have 2 in here.
You've got a couple, yeah, she can just read them, because we did.
In your packet, we have the Red Winger Brothers, 89,100, and then we have the JDH Construction for 16,680. Those are the 2
In the
that.
pack.
But that's, those bids are to do 2 different things.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and so we're moving forward with this. This is not just like we did before.
Emergency
Yeah,
situations, we keep.
when we got that recommendation from Freeman because of the emergency situation, we don't have to go out for bids on this because we need to get this stuff relocated now that, and it's because the heating season is over, that's why we're
Yes.
on the move.
Can you just kind of start at the beginning, what here, why do we need to do this?
So, Readinger Plumbing is gonna take care of, what they've done so far is move domestic water from down in the tunnel,
Okay.
and they move that up. I think we've already paid for that.
Yes.
What this is the pumps that are downstairs, plus we have 2 new pumps that we had when we did the CTE, we actually purchased 2 additional pumps in that, because it was recommended by the engineers to say, you should really just get these, because you're probably gonna be needing them either to address the boiler room or expansion if we were gonna go to the north or whatever. So we're installing 2 new pumps. We have a 3rd pump that we had to purchase because we can't reuse the one that's downstairs. So this is pump relocation. It's not just pump relocation, it includes the cooling I'm gonna say the cold water pipes that come from the compressor, the big chiller that's out there, those run alongside the middle school building, then they go downstairs into the boiler room. They're actually on the ceiling of the boiler room, but that's, the ceiling of the boiler room is about a half a flight up, for this level. And so where those pipes are, obviously aren't gonna work, plus that ceiling is gonna come down. They have to re-pipe all of those chiller pipes. I don't know, I don't think this includes, no, it doesn't include, repiping the pipes that come from the new boiler room, through the high school. That's something that would be additional to the demolition project, so. Basically what's happening is the old corridor where we used to walk around the middle school science lab, that's now becoming a new pump room. They have to put in a floor drain, because you need a floor drain in a pump room. So they have to dig a hole for that, and then they have to unfortunately trench all the way into that maintenance room, through the maintenance room, and then connect into the hallway right in front of the boys' bathroom in the middle school. That's why we kind of wait, they could have done some of that work in the maintenance area. So that's part of the JDH construction. The pump stuff is basically rerouting pipes, installing pumps, and anything that goes with getting those pumps up and
Those
running.
heaters up on the wall, that corridor.
Pardon?
Those heaters on the wall, that corridor, that piping.
That's gonna be in the demolition, so that's still yet above and beyond this. Schwann Electric, we haven't received a quote from them yet, but they will be the ones that will power the pumps. They've already done some work where that box is in there. And then who's the other one? Johnston Controls will also get something from them to put in the controllers. They're called VFDs, variable, VFD is a variable frequency. Basically, a VFD is a controller on the pumps, so the pumps don't start too hard or shut off too hard. They kind of give them a, that's my understanding, I'm not an engineer. Those, and unfortunately, those are spending controllers, but there'll be one for each of those pumps in there. So, the 89,000, did you put it in there?
Yep, it's in their packet.
I don't know how detailed that quote is.
It's basically what you're saying, it's the move floor
Rerouting,
sink,
relocating.
repipe chilled water, injection piping,
Yeah.
just what you explained.
So some of the piping is coming from downstairs up, some of the piping is being terminated and rerouted, and it will be after we do some of the demo with the boiler.
All right, questions for Dr. Block after all of that? Comments?
Clear as mud.
Variable frequency drive. It's like a digital speed controller.
Yeah.
I think it is what it is, gentlemen. I'm of the opinion, we've been putting the money away a little bit that we still have left from the main project. We're going to use most of that up, but that's what we've got it here for, and I think we need to move forward with it as soon as possible. That's my opinion.
Yep, I agree. We've already accepted the JDH, the concrete portion of it.
Is that one of them in there for
Yeah.
14,000?
16,680.
16,680.
Yep.
All right, any other comments?
So this is just the revenue.
There's two quotes that were included in the packets.
Yep, 89,1 and 16,680.
Those are smaller, and I'm okay with signing those, not okay with, approving $89,000 without having a special.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to approve the ARC Inc. proposal. Thank you, Larry. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Marty. Discussion.
So there were just some wording issues that Patty needed to address from the original proposal that we were given. I think I gave you a rough copy of that a while ago. And the numbers are not a whole lot different, I know, from Larry and I talked. Now, just know that this is an estimate for the demolition, and she did already tell me that even with what we had for a meeting last week, there could be some changes in that estimate too. The estimate will get a little bit more accurate when they get the final plan together, which she's hoping within, by the end of next week. Timing-wise, I think when we get the demolition plans, since we're meeting tonight, if we need to have a special board meeting, I would recommend that we do that, to move this along so that we're not waiting all the way until June. But that's kind of up to you folks. It's about a 3 to 4 week process for approving the plans and or advertising. There's a pre-plan time that they give for construction people to, is that what it's called, Joe? Yep. She likes to give a week for that. Is that a reasonable amount of time?
No, that'd be really fast.
That'd be really fast? Okay, so a couple weeks for that. So you're looking at anywhere from 3 to 5 weeks to get the actual bid acceptance in place, if that makes sense.
The hope was all trucking here would be done before school starts. That was a hope.
Yeah, when you were in the, I did ask Larry to stop by if he was available, and he was in the conversation with us. Our hope is to get the majority of the demolition and the really big stuff taken care of before we have students on campus again.
So, by the way, I'm going to abstain from this vote, but I think you guys need to carefully consider that you are going to have a June bid letting. It's going to take 30 days to get a contract. That puts you into July. You think you're going to get competitive bids by giving a contractor 3 weeks to do that work? You're dreaming. Just going to put that one there.
Sometimes your hands are tied.
I can't. I will abstain from that vote as well, but I would want to take care of the taxpayers.
How quickly can we move this? How quickly could we move it up, Jim? Larry, what was she thinking?
Well, initially, she was hoping August 18th was the first day of school, trucks could be off-site, not the project done.
Keep in mind, hauling the demo out is a small part of this. Bring it fill in. It's gonna be tough.
Well, two questions. Again, number one, how quickly can we, if we accept their proposal tonight, how quickly could we have a special board meeting to put it out for bids, that next step? Did she give us a timeline realistically on that, Larry?
She thought it could go out basically right away, it'd be out there for 3 weeks. Depends on the pre-construction meeting.
Today's Monday. I mean, if we can get the plan by the end of the week, have a special board meeting sometime next week.
Could we do a special board meeting as early as next week?
But do you really think we're gonna get the plans back? I thought
That's what-
you were thinking more towards the end of the month.
Or is it, that's my question, I don't understand.
I thought the email you sent out to us was somewhere between May 25th and May 28th.
I don't have my notes with me, but I know I had, like I was giving you the breakdown, 1 to 2 weeks for this, week to this. And so I looked at the calendar and I am one that chose those and said that this is where I'm projecting it according to what she was giving me for information.
Can we just say, give it to us as soon as we can, and as soon as we get it, albeit?
That's my,
One question that I would have for you as a contractor, how unrealistic is it for even saying that it's done by the end of August where the good majority's done? Because if it's not realistic by August 18th, is it any more realistic we'll give them an extra week if we get it 1 week sooner? You know what I'm asking is, what's the threshold of reasonable time?
I'm sure there's weather delays, right?
There's weather, there's, and without seeing a set of plans, the other thing, you gotta think about is, it's one thing to come in here and knock it down, but what is there going to be needed for the revenue? I wasn't there when you guys went down and went in that building, there's gonna be a lot of prep work between the two before demolition even starts. That, I don't know, that's gonna take somebody a week or two, I would assume, to get in there and get things shored up to on what is staying to allow another building to come down. Do I think it's realistic to have a bid letting in June? 3 weeks from today, potentially, and then it's 30 days to get contracts issued and get all the bond in place and all those things.
You're talking about fencing the area all along.
You're the 1st of July.
Here's your timeline that you sent to us, Mr. Block. It said, finalize demolition plans within next 2 to 3 weeks, and you put May 21st to May 28th. Pre-bid information provided thereafter, 1 week. 2 to 3 weeks bid process, advertising, reviewing, accepting by June 30th. Demolition to begin as soon as possible thereafter.
That's exactly the timeline I was gave.
If we're bidding on June, we're getting our bids in on June 30th? Is that what she said?
Accepting by then. is what I-
Accepted.
Yeah, accepted.
Contracts in place, that means you start work July 1st.
What I'm hearing,
Well, what choice do we have?
yeah, that's also.
Yeah, what choice do we have there?
What I'm hearing is it's probably not realistic for us to expect that a good portion of the, maybe the demolition will be done, but there's gonna be some trucks when we're gonna be in school. And so we have to address that with a timeline of school and/or barricades, blocking up streets, whatever.
Should we be putting together contingency plans to delay school starting 3-4 days, that week? That doesn't matter. Okay.
It doesn't probably buy enough time to make that big of a difference in the project.
Yeah, see,
Now, we have had construction when school's in session, so it is possible.
This building came down in April and May. It got hauled across the playground. We found, it was
And we were
fenced off.
still, yeah, we were still using everything, we went to school, so,
it's possible to block that area off.
To me, and I think some of the things that need to be considered is the haul route, where's the route going? Haul route, with the city and all of their street improvements, where are they gonna be at? What are they gonna allow for haul routes? There's some logistical things, and you can wait and just get asked those questions later, but,
Originally when we started all this, the estimate was $485,000 to demo that whole thing. We're at $850 now, so. You're done.
So, but my point there is don't
Yeah,
not getting any.
ask for a
yeah, I'm just,
unrealistic complete, because all that does is cost you more.
we can ask, doesn't mean it's gonna happen.
So then should we be, are you saying we're better off then by putting a completion date, even if it's September 15th, it's better for us financially versus the administrative?
There was no completion date discussed.
I thought you said
It says right here,
August 18th.
substantial completion, October 2025.
There was a statement in that time. I haven't knocked everybody else.
Yeah, I see that.
Sorry, Rick. I thought there was a statement regarding,
Yeah, on the second page.
If we can save a significant amount by working around, that's just what we're gonna have to do. To me, that's just.
I don't know why I don't put a December completion.
The what?
December, January, end of the year. Yeah. Time lessens the cost.
And that may happen too, of course. We haven't seen the plans yet, or the plans aren't good, specs aren't out yet.
Well, here's my big thing. I mean, could you hypothetically, let's say for whatever reason, this was a project that just had to happen September, October, November. Could it be done safely and work around the community? Yeah, the answer is yes. I mean, they do that all the time in major communities with much bigger and taller and more difficult buildings. I feel like we should give, from that perspective, we should give ourselves as much time as possible to get the best contractual proposal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no problem.
I'd say if we need to, I mean, adjust that proposal to say, be done by December 1st or November 15th.
Is there a, and I'm saying this kind of facetiously, but is there a big benefit in having it done, aside from barricading it off, having it done, say, September 15th versus December 15th? Is there a reason to rush it?
I can tell you a benefit to pushing it off is saving on the city streets. You know, if it's, especially if it's frozen, obviously you're not gonna ruin their mats, but if you have trucks hauling up and down here in June and July, if you get a big rain event, that contractor's gonna wanna go. And then guess what's happening to the asphalt, and then who's responsible for that? Just food for thought.
Well, I'm kind of getting is this a fair statement of where we're at? The board wants to expedite board activity to get us the most competitive bids as soon as possible. However, we're interested in getting the most competitive bid by extending the completion date till December 1st, even though we know that may be difficult to work around, but that's just what we're gonna have to do.
I guess,
Is that a fair statement where we're at, guys?
yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I'm just assuming that she's in this business, and she's thinking what's possible. If it can happen, fine. If it can't, it can't.
That's what I'd throw out there. I'd say we sign this agreement and tell her we're willing to go to December 1st. We don't, maybe she feels we have to have it October because we've been pushing so hard. And maybe she just needs to know that we're okay if it's December 1st.
So insurance-wise, they're okay if it happens in June or if it happens in November?
We had any conversations with the insurance company saying one way or the other on that, Jim, yet?
The only conversation that I can tell you we have had is that if we have a plan in place prior to our renewal date, July 1, there wasn't any specifics discussion that says we want it done by this date or by this date. I believe that their hope is to get it done as soon as possible. I think, and I can't speak for them, we can verify this, but I think as long as we're showing progress, significant progress, that it's going to be
This is significant.
So on the cost part, on the percentages, are those part of that 850,000, or is that on top of that?
That's on top, I think, isn't it?
The percentages is going to be, I believe, their payment towards our peak for their amount.
So, you know, if you read on page 4, their service fee of 6.5% of total construction cost plus reimbursable expenses.
Right.
So it'll be, yes, on top of whatever that bid comes in.
And then the schematic design development, that's all,
Within
just
that.
their percentages of it.
Yes.
And is that, so are the pumps the final thing then, as far as what has to be done in there?
There's still some electrical too. The best part about the electrical is we've already started, we have a brand new box in the new pump area, which will be fed. I don't know where they're pulling the feed for that, but everything that's down in the boiler room, we won't have anything left down there. It's all going to be vacated because it's going to be buried. So that part is probably the only positive part. We're already starting the relocation of new lines on the main floor. I guess there's nothing downstairs electrical that's coming upstairs. Everything that's gonna be upstairs has to be. All of the panels and boxes that were down there were not meant for exterior, which is why they have the rust issue and the wear and tear issue down there.
Gentlemen, I'd say we move forward with, I mean, the recommendation is, Larry, to go forward with the agreement, correct? I think we go forward with the agreement and the understanding being, Jim, that, as we'll do meetings, the board, as soon as possible. B, if need be, I mean, if it's gonna get us better bids, let's put the substantial completion to December 1st or November 30th, or whatever it needs, 2025, whatever's gonna give us the most competitive bids. We okay with that, guys? Okay, Joel's abstaining. Aaron? Larry? Marty? Yes. All right, anything else on that subject? Okay. Motion to discuss old wing issues. Jeez Louise. Are we done on old wing issues? Is there anything else we missed on old wing issues? Good, it's dead, we ain't doing it. We've done enough. All right, discussion items. Superintendent report, Dr. Block.
We're winding down the school year, obviously. We had backward and awards night last Wednesday. We do that together, and this was the first year that we've hosted both of them together in the high school gym. It is a smaller venue. I think it actually worked out quite well. We had plenty of space with the chairs on the floor and plenty of space in the bleachers. It's just a smaller event, and so I do believe that the Ministerial Association would like to have it separate, where we have awards on one night and they have their backward on another night. Combining the two, we take approximately about an hour and a half for awards, and then the backward's about a half hour, so it's a 2-hour event. I personally think that that's a reasonable evening event. When you consider basketball, people show up at 5:30, 6 o'clock, they stay till 9. If you can do that, I'm not sure why we can't handle giving that same amount of time to academics and backward. That's just my take on it. So I think it's a doable thing to continue in the future. We'll see how it goes. We had the humanity launch for the seniors last Wednesday. That's a program that we bring in where they give them kind of a culminating event. It's former educators that lead the students through a lot of activities. I know some of the things that they go through is to get kids to recognize who they've become and how they've become that. Meaning, who has influenced in you and your lives, your parents, your grandparents, your teachers, your coaches, those types of things. And one of the good things that I think comes out of it is it teaches them an appreciation of who they are, where they're coming from, and where they might be heading. So it's a really positive experience. I didn't speak with every single senior, but every senior that I did speak with said that they really enjoyed it and they thought it was a worthy activity. So we like to continue that weekend. It does cost some money, but it's a neat event for kids as they finish out their career here. Their last day is actually tomorrow, so they will be in classes tomorrow, and then Wednesday they're done. We are allowed to, as a school district, to give, we don't like to broadcast this, but we can actually give up to 5 days of school off prior to graduation. We generally do 3. And this year we planned on doing 2 because we're going to do the humanity launch this coming Wednesday, but I had some mix-ups in my conversation. We had the mindset that it was going to be this coming Wednesday. So they get 3 days off. They don't have to make up any days after graduation, so that's something they already know. Graduation's already this coming Sunday at 2 p.m. And the final day of school for all students is, as you guys have decided, it's actually Wednesday the 21st at noon. So I do want to mention that our top student with the highest GPA is Katie Brown. She was, because of that, she was invited to participate in the governor's luncheon, which is held out in here. They have a nice program where there's a nice meal, some entertaining music, and typically the governor speaks. And I do believe that Governor Rosen was there. I'm not sure, I don't attend it myself. myself, but we have some situations in previous years where the governor was unable to do conflicts, but congratulations to Katie Brown being the top student GPA wise. She was recognized for such. And then I have EMC Property Insurance. I did provide them with an update following our demolition meeting last week, basically giving a little bit of a timeline and some expectations that we are looking forward to with that process of getting the actual plans, approving the plans, getting the bids out, and then moving forward with that. So Kim Sinner did reply and said she has shared that with them, and I asked her if they had any additional questions or any other issues that we wanted to address, please let me know. I haven't heard otherwise, other than she thanked me for writing that. So, beyond that, unless you have questions, that's what I had on this list.
Comments for Dr. Block? I'll just say, Dr. Block, I was one of the ones that first was like, doing it in the high school gym, a little bit skeptical, and I will tell you, I was very impressed. It really, the size of the gym fits the atmosphere and how everything was put together with the band and the graduates and the group. It was really well done. I thought the Administrative Association did a fantastic job. I actually had students come up and afterwards and tell me they listened to the speech. I don't think that happens all the time. They did an excellent job. And I think one thing for us also to note as a school district is there 37 students graduating out of this class? 37 students. And years ago when Jamie Reitz was on the board, one of his big issues was getting the number of kids that would get a minimum of a 24 on the ACT up. And that's why we have that on to college. And I counted the number of students from Webster that had over a 24 on the ACT out of this graduating class, 13. 13 out of those 37 students have over a 24 and are really starting to take advantage of those South Dakota Opportunity Scholarships. Up to like $7,500 a piece for each one of those kids, or
I believe it's around that 65.
whatever the number is. That was just one of the scholarships, and I thought that Ms. Larson announced that there was over $600,000 worth of scholarships given out that night to the graduating class. That starts, first off at home with the parents. There's no question that's a good group of kids, and the parents, kudos to you, but it also makes a big compliment, and I want to say thank you to our staff. We just can't take that for granted, folks. Thank you to the staff and the administration and everybody that works in this district the last 13 years to help those kids get to where they are. $600,000, that's $600,000 that doesn't leave our community. That's $600,000 that helps stay in our community with our graduates and their parents and helping them go to achieve their dreams and hopefully give more back someday. So kudos, Dr. Block and Mr. Case, to you and your guys' staff. Excellent. Really proud of listening to those folks that night. That's my soapbox. Okay, Mr. Case.
I'll start by reminding a couple meetings. We had the parent group come in about the first grade, talking about them. They discussed their concerns and possibly going through sections with that. And I think, just remind me, or things were different, but you just wanted me to come back and report the numbers, correct? And then go from there. So, yeah, we're still sitting at 46 with that kindergarten group going into the first grade. I shouldn't say still, but it was up around the 50s, but it's 46 as of today. So I don't know if you want to give me any directions, or just wait and see, or if you guys want to talk to the public and let this parent group know, or just keep doing what I'm doing, come back, report numbers.
To me, that's a fair statement of where we're at. I mean, we know it's going to be difficult, but yeah, that's where we're at.
Okay. So that's where we're sitting with that. Okay. Driver's ed, we have 30 kids, so it's a big class again. So Mr. Blue and myself will have some time we need to put together to get those kids driving in the summer. Those times for the classrooms have changed. I think I put something in the announcements. If not, I will get that information out to those parents. We will have a meeting with those driver's ed kids coming up soon. so that they will know when the dates and times for the classrooms are. So again, I'll send out an alert to all those parents that have signed their kids up for the register, so they'll be notified when class is. Field day coming up, yeah, we're winding down with field trips yet, and field day will be for elementary kids this Friday. And I had a nice get together for the retirement, retired folks that were retiring, so Nancy Block, Cindy Hagan, Carlette Youngke, and Karen Clausen. A couple of teachers put a nice meal together, a potluck today, and actually Cindy Hagan's sister and mom and niece came in, and during the school day, it was really nice. There was some gifts given to them. Nice appreciation for the retired teachers and parents that were on staff, so really nice. That's all I have now.
I guess I had a question on the first grade class. If it's hard, with that many students, could we allow a like that Mrs. Bosch to volunteer for the first couple of weeks to help settle the class in, just, because I know they mentioned volunteers when we were here. Is that anything that would help the teachers, or really?
Yeah, one thing I mentioned, I think the last meeting, was possibly having Mrs. Dorset go in. So we would, because we only have 2 pre-K students, talk to those folks a little bit about the parents, about them sending them on to kindergarten. So that's the only option that we have. So we would have a preschool class of 4-year-olds. And right now, tentatively, if we would go that route, we would probably have Mrs. Dorset teach that in the afternoon. She could possibly help first grade in the morning. So that's potential. And then we've hired Haley Rittmiller. I'd like to get feedback from my teachers and Missy Portness, and I want to get their feedback on, how to approach first grade next year. If it's something they want some assistance or not, I value their feedback also. And then include, obviously, the kindergarten teachers who have had these kids and get their recommendations. We have had some discussions already. So we will have ongoing discussions. And yeah, for your question, yeah, we would try to get some assistance if assistance is needed.
Because it's got to be some hectic first couple of weeks.
It is, but I think I mentioned before, going into the kindergarten classrooms, observing, see what's going on. Our teachers are doing a fantastic job. Our kindergarten teachers are, and I don't see chaos. I don't see, it's well-run classrooms. We've got some awesome teachers.
Okay, anything else from Mr. Case? Okay, thank you, Mr. Case. NEFC?
I don't have anything to report.
Okay, buildings and grounds.
I've got a couple things on here. Actually, some better information than what we've been receiving with everything else we've been dealing with. So we are required to put some additional sprinklers that need to be installed in the wood shop. If you recall, we have we call it a simulator, and it's a 2-story structure that's built inside the wood shop. And that's where they do some building trades things, where they do sheetrock taping textures, some plumbing, some electrical stuff, things like that. Because that structure's been built inside the shop, and the shop has sprinkling systems in the ceiling, it constitutes a 2-story facility. We asked if it was possible to just drill holes in the floor of that structure so we'd let the water drill. Well, that's not an acceptable sprinkler situation, because that building has sprinklers. It needs to fall in with the code requirements. So we need to install sprinklers basically on the ceiling of the first floor of that 2-story structure. It did come back a lot less than what I expected. Lori was in about $3,500, $4,000. They'll tap into the line, have somebody come in and put them in. So it's still money, but it was a relief to me, because I was thinking, well, that's going to be another $10,000 or something. So less expensive than what I anticipated. And so we'll have that done after July 1, so it comes out of our capital outlay budget for the 25-26 school year. The other thing that we learned from our inspection for our sprinkler systems, if you recall, I told you about a check valve that they believe was in the wall between the two fifth grade rooms. I contacted Sick Miller Engineering. They were able to find out the specs on the plans and informed us that no, it's not in the wall, it's in the ceiling. It's actually above the false ceiling. So a good thing about that is we don't have to tear into any walls and come up with some access panels or anything like that. We just got to pop a couple of tiles and they can do that inspection. That needs to be done every 5 years. So we'll have that inspection done this summer. One of the issues that we have with that is we have a sprinkler system in the elementary that's needing that inspection this summer, and we just did the sprinkler system, I don't know if it was a year ago, 2 years, so we're off on the secondary versus the elementary, and Lori and I have been talking about that is, at some point, we may want to, just for time's sake, scheduling sake, and mobility sake, see if we can't get those on a similar schedule, so they're both done the same year. I'm not worried about that immediately this summer to where we do the high school, because we just did the inspections last year. So we'll work on that to try to get that synchronized. Other than that, we have a capital outlay list. On top of that 50s wing and everything that needs to be done with that, we do have some partitions in the elementary bathrooms, and some flooring in the elementary bathrooms. I mean, we have a sizable building here that we still have to maintain, so there will be additional projects that we're going to continue to try to work on for our normal annual maintenance. And that list is yet to be determined. We have some things on it, but I'm sure it's going to grow as we continue here.
Okay? Any other questions, comments as to buildings and grounds? Okay, moving on to the preliminary 2025-2026 budget that was provided to you in your packets. Lori, go ahead and let her rip. You can hit on the key points.
Yeah, because,
This is just
the
preliminary.
format is the same, you guys are very familiar with it, you've been here a long time. What does change is just, for general fund, salary and benefits is, about 75% of the budget. Revenue page, that is based on enrollment, and we just, use the formula that they give us, so that's where the revenues come from. For the general fund, I've put in all of the numbers that I know of to be changed. I've highlighted a couple. Kim Sinners thinks she will have insurance estimates to me by the end of May, so I'll be able to update that. Transportation, I can update that now. And then I just have a few other notes for myself to check. And so basically, we have those big ticket items, salary, benefits, transportation, that kind of stuff. And then the other lines in there, how I come up with those numbers is I just compare, like this year, see where we're at budget-wise, just see if they need to be adjusted. Otherwise, the big numbers are, for general fund, are pretty basic. Questions? Okay, capital outlay. And I did lay something on here. So for capital outlay,
This page here.
yes. So first on the revenue side, capital outlay. Basically, capital outlay is just local taxes. And so I do have the number in there that we did request last year. I did lay on your tables the capital outlay limitation, which shows Webster, we are in the green, so that means this year we could call for $2,055,000. So that is above the 1.9 we are. I would like to also mention that last year at this time, when we were discussing the 1.925 million, our valuation was at, I guess I got so many notes, let me just see. Our valuation from 1 year ago has increased $55 million. So I just wanted you to know that, if we're interested in.
What's our total valuation right now?
Do you have that number?
Right around 850 million. And I think we were at 795 last year at this time.
I've got a question on valuation, whatever. Is this the first year that you could opt out of your capital outlay?
No, this is not the first year.
Okay,
Well, no, I don't believe so.
okay, in there it said that's within the first 2 weeks of July. When you opt out for a specific amount, I just want to clarify, for instance, you can't go from the green to the purple.
Right.
So just because you can opt out, some districts,
Well, but I think you're limited on what you can opt out though.
yeah, I mean, you can't, there's a lot of districts that are stuck with valuation is high and enrollment is low.
Right.
But if they opt out, if they're still limited, they can't just jump to,
They can't jump to anything. First of all, you're limited, but you are also still limited at the $3 max too.
correct, but their $3 max would double what they could call for based on
Right.
students. You can't do that, but you could opt. I was just looking for some
But
clarification.
I don't believe with our option that we're allowed to opt out.
Yeah,
Not with,
we're one of the few that doesn't make any difference.
okay, so that's basically the revenue. And then, for the expenditures, so first of all, this is all just preliminary. So when you guys go through and look at it, if you see some items and you're like, okay, because of the expenditures we have upcoming, let's just hold off. Some of these things, we want to keep maintaining the building, but it's not like they're priorities either. And so in the budget, I put in, like, technology is the main one, our long-term debt, and then other things. Elementary math curriculum is a big one this year, that's $80,000. I do not have demolition cost in here because, number one, we don't know them. And so if you look at like our revenue and our expenditures, I think I put it on one of the sheets. Yeah, basically our demolition is gonna have to come out of our fund balance. And the projects that Mr. Black talked about, the 89,100, those projects right now, we still have enough money left in capital projects to cover that, but that's basically gonna cover that, and so anything we have to take after that, will have to also come out of fund balance, just so you're aware of that.
Lori?
Yep, I have one more thing too, yep,
On the technology,
yes.
it's quite an increase this year. I'm sure we'll get a breakdown of that at some point.
Yes, and I do have that breakdown, and it's just the rotation of things, but, I can send this out to you too, so you can get a look at it before the actual budget in July. Yeah. And then another thing I wanted to mention to you guys is our long-term debt. Let me just get reorganized here. So if you remember our long-term debt, and I'm talking specifically the elementary building and our Q-SCAP funds, okay? Just a refresher, the principal, or the interest payment, we make the interest payment 2 times a year. I have to do a bunch of reports, send them to the IRS. We get reimbursed 4 to 6 weeks later, okay? That has been happening since the beginning. So it is costing us some interest, but it's very minimal. We pay like, what is the interest, 58,000 every 6 months? And we get the majority of that back, okay? The principal payment, these Q-SCAP's funds are it's called a sinking fund. And so basically, we take our principal payments 2 times per year, send it into South Dakota Fit. They sit in a sinking fund, and at the end of our 16 or 17 years, whatever our term was, that is when the total principal payment gets paid off. None of that gets paid off until then. In the meantime, our principal payments are sitting there collecting interest, okay? So we're at the point now that, and I've been in communication with Toby. We have, I think our last payment, we're supposed to make 2 principal payments in '27. Okay, so we're in 25 right now. We have enough money built up in our principal fund, in our sinking fund, because of the interest that it's accrued, that we do not have to make principal payments from now until 27, which is huge. We cannot pay that off just because of how this funding mechanism is set up. So we still have to keep that, we still have to make the interest payments, but we're getting reimbursed for that. And then in the meantime, the money that we have sitting in South Dakota Fit, they are investing that for us, okay? So, basically what I'm trying to say is we're almost done, we're not making principal payments. By not making those principal payments, we are saving approximately $290,000. And then with the interest that we have accrued, by using the funding mechanism that we did when they brought this out, our project, we have less than the cost of that project, almost $500,000. And you know, when we first did this, you know, this was all new, these funding mechanisms were new, and I know there was a lot of concern that, you know, we weren't gonna get fully reimbursed from the IRS for the full 16 or 17 years. This really turned out to be a good way to fund that project, so I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
I think that's huge.
It is, it's
And
huge.
I think that's phenomenal. That opportunity comes from aligning ourselves with proper people and having, you know, people in the know that know these programs and what things are available out there. I mean, that's such a big deal.
Yeah, that was huge.
Yeah.
And you know, so basically, we had, you know, we renovated that whole elementary, you know, so now we're set up for years to come, and yeah, that was good timing. So any questions?
You put, like, expect, is ESSER funds gone?
Done. Cleared our final audits, we're done.
Is there any pledge money coming in, or is that all?
He had just, in the last couple of months, he had, just right now, is this playground we're talking about? Or what, no, what?
Any of the projects?
Playground, within the last month or two, he had just given me another check. But otherwise, I don't think we have any other pledges for other projects out there. So just kind of look that over, and I will send the technology out to you, and, you know, so we can talk about any questions in June again, or, you know, in July when we review it again. You know, if there's something you want to change, something we want to leave out that we don't think is that high of a priority right now, you know, we have a lot of funding things going on, so.
When it comes to technology, is that something that kind of needs to be done on a regular, or can you push that off a year?
Well, because of the rotation, I mean, you know, like, it really does kind of have to stay, you know, we might be able to knock a few things out, but it's not gonna be like $100,000, because you have to keep that rotation, otherwise, with technology, you know, I think we would get ourselves in a bind.
So I think the biggest issue we've got to give guidance to is where do we want to go on the call for the capital outlay, correct? So right now, we're looking at about a 0.7%, 70 basis points is what we can go up. I mean, it's,
I think we've got to look at it and, you know, not knowing what the valuation is. I don't technically know how much that would affect the mill, but just with everything we've got going on and the lack of funding coming from here, we got to look at all our options here.
What do we get, 1.25 from the state?
1.25 from the state. And we just signed a busing agreement that's 3%. You
And
know,
also remember with the capital outlay, we're limited to what we can increase each year.
Okay.
You know, so if we don't follow, we could get ourselves,
And I'm really going out on a limb here, and I don't have that wonderful packet of negotiations that's still back up, but we've stayed the same the last year or two. I'm pretty sure.
We haven't changed the call.
Correct.
I'm not sure,
Overall, we have.
because we,
Let's just put it this way, we've been very fiscally responsible.
right, and you know, we've offset some things too,
Yep.
yeah.
I would like to just look at it once. But the 0.7%.
So I should run it with this, with the 2.055, is what we're able to call for,
Yeah,
and where we're at currently, then give us the option for next month. Well, just so it looks,
what you want me to do?
just run it both pages. One page at the 2.
Oh, the revenue page, I get you.
Yep.
And as long as you're doing that, will you do me a favor?
Yes, yes, I will. I have a choice, Joel.
I just like to look at our long-term debt here.
Yes.
Can you just put a payoff date, interest rate percentage next to them? Just so I can see this one expires in 2030 and this one's in 27, you know.
She's got the years, but she don't have the interest rate, does she?
Oh,
You got the years.
Where's the year?
yeah, the years are there.
On page,
28 and 42 and 26, 29.
yeah, page 4. Of, just under the capital, page 24, out of all the pages. Page 4 under the capital outlay. There really is a lot of pages when you go through these packets. People sometimes won't believe this, but like
Well,
90
this is,
pages.
you get a lot more in July, so this is,
I know.
this is small for you.
Where's the show?
Right here.
What page
Debt
is
service.
it?
So you want to be on page 24, keep going. Keep going, next page.
Do you know offhand
Right there.
where
That's where it's-
percent ranges are right now?
I'm good, Lori.
Yeah, the high school building is in, the CTE wing is in 42. The athletic complex, our last payment is in July of 26. The elementary building, just discussed, I mean, that's a zero. The LED project, that's in 2029.
And that's no interest, I do know that.
Yeah, that's zero, I know that one's 0% interest. And the high school
So
building.
the only
isn't
one
that like-
interest we're really talking about would be the, because everything else is done, would be the CTE wing, Joel.
Isn't that like 2.1?
205.
It's a
205?
good interest rate, but I don't remember what it was.
It's low.
Yeah.
We hit that one right. But realistically, the only debt we're gonna have come, once we make that final payment next July, correct, is the CTE. The LED project, that's minimum, that's
Yeah.
0% interest. If we could put that out to 2050, put it out to 2050, it's 0% interest.
Save that each
We save that.
year. That's a zero.
It was 10 years, wasn't it? We did the LED project? That's been a good investment for us.
And then the other funds, the other major fund would be special ed.
Here, Marty and I were just talking. Think about that CTE building down there. We have that fabulous facility. We're $400,000 on it at 2% interest. I'd say we did a good job there.
400,000.
Well,
Payment.
That's what we have for payment. Pretty outstanding.
This building is 5%.
What do you mean 400? I thought the payments were 600 and something thousand starting off, and then they go down.
With, yeah, interest. 400 is the principal payment, and then there's an interest payment as well.
Okay, special ed fund?
Yeah, that just shows you, we have decreased that levy in the last couple, 3 years, and so we are using fund balance. And then, with special ed, it's salaries and benefits, and then the other major cost is NESC co-op, because we purchased services from them, OT, PT, speech. And then our other costs are our out-of-district placements. And, as far as the out-of-district placements, those are things, we can only estimate what we're paying right now because those students can move in and out at any time, so. And then the other funds, the QSCB, the capital projects will go away very shortly. Food service and then driver's ed are the other ones.
Okay. Any questions for Lori, comments?
And if you guys have questions, you can come in at any time and we can go over things.
All right, if there's none, we'll have a motion to move into executive session for personnel.
So I don't think we both.
All right, thanks, Eric. Yeah, then you can adjourn, it'll be shortly, hopefully. Larry, you gonna second us when you go?
All right.
All right, great. Second, Larry. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign, motion